Imagine this. Late at night, you're sitting alone in your room, holding a glass of alcohol, or staring at your phone screen. You know you should stop, but you can't. That emptiness keeps creeping in, over and over again, as if no matter what you do, you can never fill the void inside. It feels like an invisible hand gently gripping your throat, making you seek something, but you can never find true satisfaction. Do you feel like you don't have full control over yourself? Have you ever found yourself confused or even disgusted by the choices you make? Do you ever suddenly realize that you're not really free? These are questions you've probably asked yourself, but never really found an answer to. Why, despite knowing it's wrong, do you continue to indulge in certain behaviors? Why is it so hard to break free? You might tell yourself, it's just a small habit, it doesn't matter. But what if I told you that this habit has deeply rooted itself in your subconscious, becoming part of your life? What if I told you that you're not really in control anymore, and you've been controlled by your own addictions without realizing it? Addiction, this word seems so commonplace in our lives. Whether it's dependence on substances, emotional needs, or even endless scrolling through social media, addiction quietly devours you. But the most unsettling part is that you've gotten used to it. You've started to think that this is just how life works, and you habitually avoid confronting the pain and emptiness inside. But what if I told you, what's really controlling us behind addiction? What is it that is pulling the strings, making us act this way again and again? Addiction is not just a simple behavioral habit. It is deeply embedded in our inner world. Every time you feel like you can't stop a certain behavior, you might think you're just seeking pleasure, or you're simply coping with stress. But underneath, there is an emptiness you refuse to face. The true root of addiction goes much deeper than you realize. It touches the fundamental issues of human existence. Have you ever wondered why we have this desire to escape? Why do we prefer to seek temporary pleasures rather than face the deeper emotional pain? From Jung's perspective, none of this happens by accident. Jung once said, "The human psyche always has a dark corner, a place where you cannot reach." This is what he called the shadow self. What you keep avoiding is that shadow. It represents your deep-seated fears, pain, weaknesses, and suppressed emotions. You can't face it directly, so you resort to addiction to fill it. You seek alcohol, drugs, food, shopping, or even social media to numb yourself, to ignore the cries from within. Every time you feel empty, you unconsciously seek these temporary comforts, as if they will bring peace. But this is just an illusion. It doesn't address your true needs. You're merely covering up the pain with temporary distractions. Nietzsche also uncovered an important point about human behavior. The essence of human nature is not entirely rational. Much of our actions are driven by the will to power. You create reasons for your addiction, trying to gain a sense of control and power through external stimulants. You think these external stimuli will bring you fulfillment, but in reality, they are slowly eroding your inner strength. Addiction, at its core, is about the loss of self-control. It is an escape from the discomfort within. Every time you avoid facing the real you, you turn to external distractions to fill the void. This is not just a temporary escape, but a deeply ingrained psychological mechanism that influences your behavior, emotions, and identity. And at an even deeper level, existentialism offers another layer of understanding. Sartre suggested that when confronted with freedom, we often feel lost. Freedom, on the surface, seems like something to be enjoyed, but it also brings existential anxiety. You are faced with endless choices, but you don't know how to choose. And this freedom to choose creates confusion, even pain. To avoid this anxiety, you seek a form of certainty, which often comes from external dependencies, such as material possessions, behavior, or social approval. This is another deep root of addiction. When you can't bear the anxiety of existence, you turn to something external for stability. But this stability only traps you deeper. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I keep choosing escape instead of facing it? You might think it's just temporary relief, but it is quietly altering the course of your life. It doesn't just affect you as an individual, it's a societal dilemma that many are facing. We are afraid to confront the truth of our inner selves, so we'd rather drown out the pain and emptiness with addiction. So what is controlling us behind all of this? Have you realized that this invisible force has already decided the course of your life? The consequences of addiction are not as immediately visible as the alcohol bottle, the cigarette smoke, or the phone screen. They seep into your life quietly, changing everything: your relationships, your sense of self, your role in society, and even the trajectory of your future. You might not immediately notice these changes because they are not directly manifested in violent conflicts. Instead, they are deeper, almost imperceptible shifts in your psychology and emotions. Have you ever wondered how addiction is silently changing your sense of self? Little by little, you lose touch with who you really are, unable to distinguish between the real you and the mask you've created through external influences. Every time you rely on some form of external distraction to fill the emptiness inside, your true self becomes more and more distorted. You no longer recognize yourself, and you can no longer reconcile with the person you've become. You've become a slave to your addictive behaviors, and all your emotional needs and spiritual fulfillment seem to lie in these external distractions. You begin to forget who you once were, your ideals, your dreams, your desires. This invisible consequence doesn't just affect individuals. It has a profound impact on the fabric of society. We live in a culture built on constant stimulation, consumption, and instant gratification. This societal structure itself is a part of the addiction mechanism. We are constantly bombarded with stimuli and temptation, and advertisements, media, and social platforms cleverly shape our dependence on materialism, status, and entertainment. You are no longer an autonomous individual. You are a product of this system, being pushed around by external forces, conforming to the desire standards set by society. You might not realize it, but every social media post you scroll through, every shopping spree you embark on, every moment of temporary gratification you indulge in, is actually making your internal desires harder to suppress. Your brain has been conditioned to crave this instant stimulation. Every bit of pleasure quickly fades, and you need the next high. This is a precise manipulation of your brain's reward system, but its consequences are devastating. You begin to lose the ability to enjoy a simple life. You can no longer stand the feeling of emptiness, and you cannot self-soothe. Every moment of emptiness becomes a void, pushing you further to fill it. You are no longer in control. You are merely a passive recipient of life's external stimuli. Have you thought about where this lifestyle will take you in the long run? If you continue down this path, without confronting those deeper pains and fears, you will lose even more of yourself. The addiction deepens, slowly eroding your sense of direction. Every external reliance you have keeps pulling you in, dragging you further into the trap. It's not a battle you can win without awakening to the reality of what's happening. And around you, perhaps many people are unknowingly trapped in the same cycle. Their lives may appear normal, even filled with external validation and accomplishments, but internally, they are growing emptier. This invisible consequence is quietly eroding the vitality of your own life and the lives of those around you. You might want to ignore this issue and keep avoiding the painful truths, but it's not just your fate at stake. It's the structure of society itself. If everyone keeps avoiding their inner suffering, relying on external satisfaction to numb their existential anxiety, the foundations of society will crumble. We will grow more distant, more isolated, unable to truly understand ourselves or care for others. Addiction isn't just an individual disease, it's a collective sickness. You have to ask yourself, if this situation doesn't change, what will be the cost? What will happen if we continue living in this illusion of satisfaction? Can we ever find our true selves again? You've come a long way, venturing deep into the abyss of addiction, confronting your inner darkness and emptiness. You might be starting to realize that you're not entirely in control of your life, even though external forces have been pushing your choices. But here's the thing. None of this is insurmountable. Despite how addiction may seem like an inescapable trap, it is not a hopeless fate. The key question here is, are you ready to break free from it? Real rebellion starts with facing your own shadow. This is a topic that most addicts avoid even discussing. You cannot escape addiction until you face the deep discomfort within, the pain, the fear, and the rejection of your own vulnerabilities. You're not addicted to substances or behaviors. You're addicted to avoiding confronting the real you. Every time you indulge, you're running away from yourself, from your pain, your emotional wounds, and your unacknowledged fears. Jung's psychology tells us that the shadow is the part of ourselves we refuse to accept. It's everything about us that we deem undesirable, our darkest impulses, our insecurities, and the parts of us we try to suppress. Addiction is nothing more than a means to avoid this confrontation with our inner darkness. You thought you were pursuing pleasure, but in reality, you've been numbing yourself from the emotional scars that never had the chance to heal. This avoidance, this denial of your shadow, is the true root of your addiction. So how do you rebel against it? The first step is simple, yet profoundly difficult. Accept yourself. Accept the darkness, the fear, the imperfections. Only by truly embracing yourself, with all your flaws, can you begin to heal. This is not about perfection. It's about integrating all parts of yourself, the good and the bad. Rebellion starts here, in the painful yet liberating act of self-acceptance. Next, you need to re-examine your desires and goals. We live in a society that constantly feeds us messages about what we should want: fame, wealth, power, and instant gratification. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what do I really need? Most of the time, our addictions stem from desires that are not genuinely ours. They are shaped by the media, by society, by others' expectations. We chase things that we think will make us happy, but those things are not aligned with our true selves. The second step of breaking free from addiction is learning to detach from external desires and reconnect with your authentic needs. This doesn't mean you abandon all desires, but rather, you begin to ask the critical question: why am I pursuing this? What is it that I truly long for deep down? It's not easy to detach from the external world's demands, but doing so will help you regain the power to live for yourself, rather than being enslaved by others' expectations. The third part of your rebellion is learning to coexist with your inner emptiness. Have you ever felt that unbearable loneliness, that gnawing void? It's a feeling many of us try to avoid at all costs. But this emptiness is not your enemy. It's a part of your human experience. Avoiding it, distracting yourself with endless stimulation, will only deepen it. But accepting it, acknowledging that it's a natural part of life, is the beginning of freedom. You can learn to embrace emptiness without feeling threatened by it. By sitting with this discomfort, rather than fleeing from it, you allow yourself to process the emotions beneath it. True freedom doesn't come from external validation or material gratification. It comes from the ability to be with yourself in your most uncomfortable moments and find peace there. The void is not a trap. It's a space for growth. Rebellion doesn't come easily. It's not about simply deciding to quit your addiction or taking one bold action. It's a journey of deep self-examination, a gradual relearning of what it means to be authentically you. And yet, this journey is worth every step. Each moment of self-reflection, each effort to break free from the patterns of your old self, brings you closer to that inner freedom you've always yearned for. So how do you begin? Stop running away. Stop reaching for those quick fixes, the distractions that numb the pain. Instead, face your inner self. Ask the tough questions. Confront the fears you've been avoiding. Start small, in your thoughts, in your decisions, in your daily actions. Rebuild your life from the inside out, one honest step at a time. You're not helpless. You have the power to change, to awaken from the trance of addiction. But first, you must choose to wake up. You've ventured into the depths of your psyche. You've confronted the shadow, and now you're beginning to realize something. The truth you've been seeking is not some distant, unreachable ideal. It's been with you all along. You just had to stop running from it, stop hiding from it. And now, it's finally clear. The ultimate truth about addiction and everything it represents is this. Addiction is not about the substance or behavior. It's about escaping the truth of who you are. It's about fleeing from your own pain, your own desires, and your own vulnerability. But what happens when you face all of it head-on? What happens when you no longer need to numb yourself, when you no longer need to hide behind external distractions? You begin to realize that true freedom does not come from escape. It comes from acceptance. When you stop running from yourself, when you stop needing external validation or instant gratification, you reconnect with your authentic self. And that self, the real you, is powerful, whole, and complete. The greatest rebellion you can ever make is not against society, not against the world around you, but against the part of you that has been conditioned to seek validation from external sources. Once you stop relying on these distractions to fill the void inside, you'll discover something miraculous. The void was never empty to begin with. It was simply waiting for you to fill it with truth, with love, and with self-acceptance. This insight will change everything. It will transform the way you view yourself, your desires, and your place in the world. It will allow you to reclaim your life from the grips of addiction and begin anew, not as a slave to your habits, but as the sovereign of your own existence. The truth is that freedom comes from within. It's not something you seek outside of yourself. It's something you discover when you stop running, when you stop hiding, and when you finally face the most difficult, yet most rewarding journey of all, the journey back to yourself. Are you ready to take that step? Are you ready to face the real you and finally break free? This is the moment that will change everything. The choice is yours.